What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube.
Welcome to Couch in the Rube, our Sunday night show presented by our friends at Muskox Quality Flannels. On a dreary day like this, temperatures in the low 60s for a while, you start thinking about fall. You start thinking about flannel weather. And Muskox, they have sent me the fall flannel line, an early peak, some great stuff. I've already got my eyes set on this caper green flannel. I think my eyes are going to pop, Jason, in this Muskox flannel. You can check out their latest offerings and order your flannel, too, at gomuskox.com. Couch in the Rube listeners can use the promo code CAW15 for $15 off your flannel purchase. Jason, how you doing, brother?
Free Ubers.
What's up, buddy? Now, what kind of green is that again?
Caper green.
Caper green.
It just looks good. I don't even know what caper is.
It sounds like it will look good.
Yeah.
Today was a good day for a nice Muskox. I'm glad I have one in my closet.
Yeah.
Great day.
Yeah. No, I think my eyes will pop. I think it just, I just look at it, I'm like, I'm going to look good with my barrel chest and my short arms.
They do make you look good, especially if you're slovenly like Graham and I.
Yeah. It
really pulls the room together.
It's a good fit. How you doing, brother? Everything good?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah. How are you?
Things are all right.
Did you stay up for the game? The soccer game? Or get up for
I got
it,
up for the game, yeah. 5 a.m.
Were you sad?
No. I mean,
You shed a tear?
I mean, I had money on Sweden, so there's that. No. I wasn't anti-U.S. I would have been okay with them winning. It wasn't like I had a lot of money. I had futures bets on Sweden, like Sweden to get to the semifinals, things like that, before I knew they were going to play the U.S.
1-800-GAMBLER.
And I was just like, this will be. But no, I was actually. I mean, I found myself pulling for the U.S. naturally, and but they were a frustrating team. So I wasn't I wasn't upset to lose them from the tournament. In other words, this wasn't some team that I had like fallen in love with, been like, this is a team I want to see make a run. They were so frustrating in the group stage. I didn't think they had a shot. And even though they played better than they had, I was right. And maybe we'll get into that a little more in the quick takes.
I can't wait.
Some good stuff there. Some Megan Rapinoe stuff in the hot takes from our listeners too.
Now, what time was the game on, though?
5 a.m.
All right. So you get up. I would be pissed, though, on a Sunday to wake up and if they play like ass.
They didn't play like ass. It was a good game. The plan was to take a nap. Never really came to fruition. But all
right.
That's okay. A lot of other stuff going on. And
any other teams leave the conference or?
Yeah,
Big Ten have 40 teams now since we talked on Friday.
I hear Purdue and Indiana are going to the SEC.
Smart.
Yeah, makes sense. Better fit.
Go to the Mountain West. That's where these lower level teams should be like, can we go to the Mountain West? Have a little bit of fun?
I'm never sure how, when I write columns about the conference, how they're going to resonate with people. Sometimes people look to me for that stuff. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they'd much rather it be a little more micro and focused on MSU, and I'm going to do plenty of that, obviously.
Are some people, have they had enough of the money and greed?
Well, this one took off, though. The amount of people that have read this and interacted in it today has been substantial. So maybe we start there as we get into our hot takes. My first hot take is everything I wrote today, that this was a needless move by the Big Ten. And we talked about it a little the other day. And there's so much that I feel it's weird. I feel worse about this as time goes on. And I've tried to keep an open mind. I've talked with people who are optimistic about it or see positives in it. And there are things, and having Oregon and Washington in terms of matchups that'll be rather exciting here and there, road trips that'll be exciting, alumni who will have more access to Michigan State. There are things here and there. But overall, it's not just that a school like Michigan State now has a harder road, and many of the Big Ten schools have a harder road. In fact, everybody outside of probably Ohio State, which is still going to be the dominant team in the conference, and maybe if Michigan keeps this up, but if this, it's Michigan and Oregon, I don't think adding Oregon helps Michigan get to the playoff. And so, and for Oregon and Washington, this isn't going to help them. Nobody's going to be happy. There are going to be fewer happy fans because this ultimately happened. While there will be some cool TV games, some exciting moments, and then you've got just the Cals and Stanfords who are left out, Oregon State, Washington State, like their student athletes don't matter. We talk all this stuff about, well-being of the student athletes. Is that only student athletes who live in East Lansing? They're not human in Corvallis, Oregon. They don't matter. They signed up for something that's now not going to happen. Their lives get disrupted. You get this situation where all these coaches and administrators and the Big Ten and other leagues talk all the time about the transfer portal ruining college sports, coupled with NIL, the lack of loyalty, players jumping around for the purposes of money and nothing else, and then boom. Like, you've just lost all moral authority if you're the Big Ten. And it's going to be really hard to take them seriously on these issues that are still important. I do think there are issues with the transfer portal and NIL and the combination of the one-time transfer and the amount of movement there is. I don't think it's always good for kids. And how do we incentivize kids to stay instead of punishing them for leaving and all those sort of things? But if you're in the Big Ten office right now, nobody's going to look at you with a straight face if you suggest something. If you're in the Big 12 or any of these leagues, because you're not living your own principles. And, I just think where I get a little bit conflicted, even myself, is I thought with USC and UCLA, and I wrote this, that this was going to be fun. It was 16 teams. It was just the two LA schools, a jolt of energy. And it was a little bit of short-sighted because ultimately the Pac-12 was already being torn apart by that. But from just the Big Ten perspective, 16 felt like something you can get your arms around. It didn't feel quite so unwieldy. It felt like there could be a little bit of a community and oneness and still a conference of sorts. 18 feels like an association that's just out of hand, and they're not going to stop there. And you're never, the thing that you lose, like there used to be at the end of the year, you get to the playoff or you get to a bowl game and you go to a different destination, and we're going to lose sort of the specialness of playing the unknown team and the unknown location from a different league, and you see how you measure up, and that's sort of exciting. Going out to Arizona for a bowl game, playing a team from Oregon, and when things are no longer special, life is a little less. Like if that's just the ordinary, we're going to get used to it and accustomed to it, and I don't think it's going to be as good. You want those carrots at the end of it. I don't like this.
But you were talking about us being short-sighted, and now looking back at it, 16 teams. The greed is everywhere in the NCAA right now. So why wouldn't they go to 20 teams? Why wouldn't they try 22 teams?
Financially, I don't know that it makes sense. Like the Oregon and Washington thing in the short term do not add to your.
See, I disagree with
financial
Oregon.
wherewithal.
If Oregon's a good team and Michigan beats Oregon, obviously that does help you to get to a college football playoff, like you mentioned earlier in your take, saying that it wouldn't matter beating Oregon for a team like Michigan.
Well, no. I'm just saying. No, I'm saying it's going to be harder for Michigan to beat Oregon than it would be to beat Purdue, and it's going to be harder to get to the playoff because of that. No, I think that the bottom line is the money that's coming in through the media rights deal isn't changing for these schools. They're not getting more money by having Oregon and Washington. The extra money came in really from having USC. That was where that added to the media rights deal when it was actually negotiated. These people are just jumping in. And I know they're like putting a hand out and saying we're helping you in your time of need a little bit, but the Pac-12 would have stayed together and I think would have eventually been okay and would have figured it out if Oregon and Washington had stayed. And the Big Ten, for all its talk about research institutions and fit in all sorts of ways, to leave Stanford in the wind speaks volumes about what you really care about. And I don't. I think.
Why are we surprised though?
I think Stanford and Cal eventually find their way to the Big Ten. I do. I think the two teams that are going to get screwed are going to be Oregon State and Wazoo, who are not coming to the Big Ten.
So we're still going to call it the Big Ten when they have 30 teams in
Absolutely.
there? Okay.
That's been branded in because they haven't changed like other conferences have when they've changed the number of teams before. They're not going to change now. The other thing I am very curious to see, and I am going to try to hold their feet to the fire on this, and they won't listen to me, so this doesn't matter. But for the next 2 years in the playoff, for the first 2 years of the 12-team playoff, there are supposed to be the highest ranked 6 conference champions get auto bids, and then there are the next highest ranked 6 teams. Well, if you lose one power league, it stands to reason you'd say, well, let's just make it the top 5 conference champions, and then the next 7. I would like to see these greedy little bastards say, let's keep it at 6-6. Let's give, outside of what will now be a Power 4 leagues, 4 power leagues, let's give 2 other leagues a shot in the playoff every year, and we'll take the other 6 spots. They're not going to do that, but if they really wanted to show a little bit of altruism, a little bit of lack of fear of the little guy rising up in a different, with a smaller brand and building something, a little, I would just love to see that. And because I think ultimately a lot of my resentment toward what the Big Ten and SEC are stems from shitting on the little guy. And the idea that that's happening now. And I've always respected the Big Ten for like having broad-based opportunities, having more sports than the SEC schools, for having, even in their moments when it looks like it's all about money, having what seemed like other priorities that fell in line with the mission, for whatever that's worth. And most people don't give a rat's ass. But for whatever reason, it helped me thumb my nose at the SEC and say, SEC bad, Big Ten good.
So if it's going to, the expansion's going to hurt a team like Michigan, then what does it say for a team like Michigan State?
Correct. That's
how hard is it going to be then for Michigan State?
You're going to have to get really
Tucker?
Good. You're going to have to get really good. And there's going to be, whether there's 6 or 7 at-larges overall, there's going to be about 3 spots a year out of the Big Ten from 18 teams. You're going to have to be, most years, one of the top 3 teams to assure yourself. There will be years a 4th team gets in, but to assure yourself you're getting in, you're going to have to be one of the top 3 of 18 teams. 18 teams that include Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, Washington, Penn State, Wisconsin, Iowa. And that's 7 schools before I name Michigan State who are legitimate teams you're going to be up against. USC, UCLA. That's 9 schools with equal to or bigger football brands than Michigan State. And you're going to have to beat 7 of those to get into the playoffs. It's not that MSU can't, because we saw in the mid-2000s with D'Antonio, they did. You can, and that's what Mel Tucker's being hired to do. And so we'll see if it happens. But adding Oregon and Washington, even in a schedule that doesn't always include Ohio State, which is the one thing I thought was sort of the thing that made adding USC and UCLA not any worse for Michigan State because you get out of the East Division. But now when you add 2 more, the odds you're running into really good teams every week, the odds that how high you have to climb in the standings to, and the type of teams you have to beat to get a shot in the playoff, it's going to be tough.
I mean, even in D'Antonio in his prime, though, if he had to handle the NIL stuff and the transfer portal, because he caught lightning in a bottle with some of these guys that were 3-star guys or 2-star guys and turned them into 4 or 5-star guys. So I don't know if you'd be able to do that in today's today's college football landscape.
I don't know. He did have some incredible recruiting classes as they panned out. But let's take 2014 for example. One of the teams that I think Michigan State in the new expanded playoff could have won a title with. They go 10-2. They lose a game at home to Ohio State. There was an epic game when J.T. Barrett was the best quarterback he ever was in his life. And he was amazing that night. I mean, he was unbelievable. But Michigan State was good enough that year to be in the play. Now, that year they played Oregon in the non-conference and lost. And so if you, and I don't remember where Oregon finished and all that stuff, but what I'm saying is if you now have Oregon in your standings and that's a head-to-head that you lost, does 10-2 get you in that circumstance? You know what I mean? Like there's all sorts of things. It probably will. 10-2 actually, I think, in the Big Ten will almost always get you in, or given who you're going to have to play. But it's going to be very difficult for Michigan State. It's going to be harder for Michigan State than it was before this whole deal.
I mean, when you weigh out the pros and the cons, though, what is one pro?
Well, the pro for the media rights deal is significant. It's real. I mean, the problem is that Oregon and Washington don't add to that. So the addition of USC, whatever they brought in, however much more, although they added to the deal they signed, if you're getting $60 million, and originally they thought it was going to be like 70, but Kevin Warren did not dot the T's and cross the I's, so to speak. But on a few details that were reported last year. But if $60 million still is a lot of money, and one of the things Alan Haller has talked about in conversations I've had with him is the idea you'll see where people's priorities are by where they spend the money, because it is a fair deal of money. And I think you'll see there are benefits to the student-athlete experience at Michigan State if you have a volleyball practice facility at some point. If your gymnastics team, which has been competing in the top 10, actually gets a facility to train in that's in the top 10. If your baseball and softball teams eventually are no longer playing road games when they should be home because their fields are underwater, if you figure out an answer there, like if you're able to keep non-revenue coaches who have success because you're able to pay them at a level that the top coaches make in their sport, and you're able to, I mean, there are lots of things that money can help with if you do it right. And so there are advantages to the media rights deal. To Oregon and Washington, other than some cool games and maybe some things down the road, there are some partnerships, some alumni stuff. There are little things, but the overarching thing, and I think probably more people in the Big Ten associated with the Big Ten than not feel this way, it doesn't make sense. And I'm surprised they did it in hindsight. And I still wonder if they had to redo it a few days later, if they do the same damn thing. What is your first hot take?
Buenos tardes. It is time for the Detroit Tigers Gambling Update with Gramanito Couch and Jason Nick.
Well, Graham, I hate this team. Detroit Tigers, that is. But there's one thing I hate more than this team, and it's Bally Sports. Did you watch any of the games over the weekend, today and yesterday against the Rays?
Paid attention to the scores, yeah.
Did you notice the broadcast booth, though?
Didn't they have a players only?
Back-to-back, players only? Does that mean, now they let Shep be a part of Pick the Stick, which everybody watches.
Everybody loves Pick the Stick.
Everybody loves Pick the Stick, hashtag.
It's like telling people on a podcast about your own fantasy team or something. Nobody wants to hear that. Unbelievable.
Oh, man, I've been winning all year long and unbelievable. Anyway, so does this mean that, by the way, is Bally Sports, are they done? They went through bankruptcy. Listen, and I saw Rod Allen. I think he was at Comerica. Are they going to bring Mario and Rod back together?
You're asking a lot of questions here. I don't know.
I'm just saying. No, I'm just speaking out loud because why would you have – and by the way, the players-only broadcast, I do enjoy. But there's no one really steering the ship. It's just like an over-animated SEMO.
So who are the guys? So I watched a couple innings on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I forget, one of the guys has a really soft, high voice.
That Petrie,
I don't know.
Rosema.
He was the guy who thought that a sac fly had been hit when it was the third out.
Is that Dan Petrie?
I don't think it's Petrie. I know Petrie. But anyway, I don't know. It was.
You know Peaches? I know people are yelling at their phones, staring at your phone right now, yelling out the name. Need some Hoff?
Who? What are we talking about?
Are you trying to figure out who's talking on the broadcast?
No, I'm not gonna figure it out because I don't know. What am I gonna Google? Who's the high talking former player?
Bad. Oh, my bad. You asked for Hoff for the dumbest of shit. I figured you want to find out who it was. My bad.
Yeah, no.
Anyway, next season, new broadcast team.
Could happen. But Shep's a nice guy, man.
He is a great guy. All those guys are great. Nice guys. Gibby's a great guy. I'm just saying it makes for just a terrible broadcast, and I like what they're trying to do, but someone needs to steer the ship. It's definitely not a guy like Shep.
So is your take that they need a new broadcast team, or you hate this team? Or you hate this team?
That too.
Okay.
Although I did take the +1.5 on Saturday.
I did too.
Yeah.
I just jumped. I was like, and I took the under.
Matt Manning got killed today. So
yeah, Matt Manning is not somebody to. I don't know if he's going to be a long-term future in that rotation. To be honest, I think that might have been a bust of a pick.
Hot takes are tough this Sunday. They're going to get better as we get closer to football, I believe, because it was very close to Carmen Electra's hot.
Is that where you were?
I will say, though, I was excited about the Bally's kind of trying to hopefully switch things up.
Okay.
Terrible broadcast.
All right, I'll go some U.S. women's soccer, which is always exciting for people. Everybody who's still listening gets a gift card. No, so I actually think what happened to the U.S. women's team in this World Cup will be good for them long term as a program. Like, I think they needed to be humbled. They needed to see the rest of the world catch them. They needed to see that the group stage was going to be a challenge. I don't think they brought the fight. I think they thought there was a certain point where they would really have to step up, but they didn't think it was going to be the group stage. I don't think they came into this ready to bring the fight to whoever was in front of them. People are ready to bring the fight to them, and they expanded the Women's World Cup to, 32 was it this year? And I know, there was some concern about the competitiveness, and there are a lot of teams that weren't supposed to be competitive wound up being really good. This is, it is a challenge for the U.S. women's team because of Title IX, because of where women's soccer was 25 years ago. They started above a lot of people, and then were on par with a very few. And they had all these advantages, and they became stars, and things, they didn't always win everything, but things were easy. They always got to the semis. It's going to be hard from here on out. They're going to have to bring the fight to people, and they needed a World Cup where they saw that, where they realized you cannot just bring your stars. You have to bring your best. And maybe there's some people in the NWSL they left behind, I think. I just think sometimes you need to get kicked in the teeth a little bit to self-evaluate.
Peacock.
And I think that'll happen for that. And so for that, I think this was actually a positive. They were also frustrating to watch. They didn't have enough offense. I didn't really care if they.
But you won back-to-back World Cups. I mean, that's pretty impressive, right?
Oh, no, this is an impressive group. It's a legendary group. Just this particular team. And there's some really good young players on this team. They've got to move on from some of the older players and reassess.
They have Rodman's daughter, right?
They do.
Trinity
yeah.
Rodman?
Yeah. What is your second hot take?
Did you see the fight this weekend? The baseball brawl?
I saw highlights of it, yeah.
First, now Hosey and Anderson square off. They're fighting. They're swinging. Down goes Anderson. Down.
By the way, shout out to the ump that just got the hell out of the way. You saw Ramirez sit there and go, wait a minute, is he? Then Tim Anderson saw it, and they're like, oh, I guess I better square up. Bravo. Finally a fight this Major League Baseball season. Remember when we were younger, we would see these on This Week in Baseball every Saturday morning?
Yeah, we see Nolan Ryan put somebody in a headlock.
Robin Ventura, yeah.
Yeah, we haven't seen a good fight in a while. They get broken up too quick.
Now, Ramirez technically knocked Tim Anderson out, and Tim Anderson for the White Sox is kind of flipping out on Twitter. Is there anything worse than being knocked out on national television and being on Twitter when there's video and slow-mo video of you getting knocked out?
I mean, I got knocked unconscious by a tennis net as a freshman in high school. So
shout out to that tennis net
in front of the whole team. And so that wasn't great when you're trying to fit in. I got hit by a car that same year walking across the street with other kids.
Shout out to that car.
Yep. And by a kid who wound up being a senior on the tennis team too. And those are two stories we're telling, presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing. A reminder, trivia on Tuesday, 7 and 8 p.m. at Midtown Brewing in downtown Lansing. Great spot to gather. Good menu, good beer selection. It's like the ideal trivia spot because it's a good vibe and it's a great menu with getting American stout for yourself.
Do they do a lot of sports trivia? That's all I can do.
Nobody does the right amount of sports trivia. They don't do tough enough sports questions. They're always, they'll do a really difficult geography question and they get to sports. It's like, who won the last Super Bowl? Instead of well,
they're probably playing to their audience. I mean,
right.
Who did look out there and see?
Who did Michael Chang defeat in the 1990 French Open final? That's what I'm looking for. Stefan Edberg, baby. Let's go. We never get that question. It's always insulting to the intelligence.
1980s tennis. Bram, you're your category.
That's why I'm there. Yeah. From the 1980s.
We should get a Couch in the Rube trivia team.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I'm saying it. It would be fun to do.
I would be worthless, but
Yeah, it'd still be fun to hang. It'd be a good time. At some point, we should do that. Tuesday night, Couch in the Roof trivia team. I guarantee you, we'd get some people who would be of higher quality than us from our listenership to show up and put together a squad over there at Midtown Brewing Company. All right, my third hot take. I'm kind of rooting for Noah Kim to win the job.
What?
Yeah. And I'm not rooting for him like if Katon Hauser beats out Noah Kim, I'll be like, fuck that, man. This is bullshit. I'm not talking like that because I really ultimately want both players to succeed. I have no issue with anything, but I'm just saying.
I thought you're not supposed to care.
Well, it doesn't mean you don't like certain players or like their stories or want to see them do well. Cassius Winston was somebody that I wanted to see do very well because I enjoyed our conversations. I liked him a lot, right? Just a good guy. Had kind eyes, as I always say. I like Noah Kim's story. I like his perseverance. I like his unwillingness to leave. I like the way he talks about competing and how important that is. And I just like the way he carries himself. I like his story. And I'd like to see him get a shot and do well. And I'm not saying I don't want to see that for Katon Hauser at some point. I hope he gets his shot at some point, but he's 2 years younger. When you get a guy who's in his fourth year of a program at a time when anybody can leave, and I'm not saying he would have a ton of options elsewhere, but he didn't know certainly that Peyton Thorne was going to transfer. He thought he was leaving spring and coming into a spot where he was going to be going toe-to-toe with the incumbent. He was still willing to be around and compete. And it's interesting because I do think while most Michigan State fans like the idea of Noah Kim and seeing what he's about and are all behind him and behind whoever the quarterback is, I've also seen the way this turns if one of these guys struggles in a big game and how much that changes. I would like to see him at least be able to taste some success as a starting quarterback. I think he's earned the right to be that guy. I hope he wins the job. If he's not the better guy, he shouldn't win it. But I don't know.
What? I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me.
The conversations I've had with him, the conversation I had last week, conversation in the spring, just one of those guys that I think anybody who talked to him would feel like, I really hope this guy gets a shot and makes the most of it because he's kind of one of those guys you want to see succeed. And that wasn't Carmen Electra's hot. It's not my hottest take I've ever had, though. I had a few other suggestions, and I thought this would be interesting. I don't know.
I guess we should get to theirs, the listeners.
What's your third hot take?
No, that's it.
Okay,
I can't top that
I
one.
should have stopped it, too. Fuck. That's all I had. I mean, I did think that. I was like, I remember sitting there last week talking to Noah Kim thinking, God, I mean, and look, I've had a couple conversations at this point with Katon Hauser. Really enjoyed him. Nice kid. Young guy. The guy who's paid his dues, I'd like to see it work out for him. That's all. Hot take right there. Jeez. All right, let's dig into the listener hot takes.
All right, Eric Schultz up first. Number one, Mel Tucker won't be fired after this year, nor should he even if he goes south. But in November, we'll have a great idea of whether that'll eventually be his fate here. Two, people who use cloth diapers either do laundry 24/7 or have babies that shit a lot less than mine do. Either way, it blows my mind that they're a thing. Three, conference realignment is ass.
Cloth diapers are ass, I think. Yeah, I mean, I understand.
Literal.
Why? I think I had cloth diapers as a baby. I do think I did for a while.
Yeah, but that was in the 80s.
Yeah, late 70s, early 80s. It was a different time.
It's disgusting.
Yeah. I don't.
So you just toss the whole baby log in the washer?
Yeah, I don't really understand
Jesus
what the process is. What do you do to your washing machine? Like, I wouldn't want to wash other clothes.
You have to spray them down first and then put them in the wash?
I think you need a separate washing machine if you're going to do that.
How much money do you save, though? I know you wouldn't know.
Not
this.
enough.
I'm just saying out
Not
loud.
enough. Not enough. I mean, that's...
No. I mean, it must be worth it if you're willing to dig shit out of your kid's cloth diaper. It's got to be worth something.
We've had a lot of these poop conversations.
I'm sorry. You just keep following us.
Yeah, and it's understandably so. Let's number one, In November, we'll have a great idea whether Mel Tucker's fate will eventually be him being fired or not. Do you think that's true this year?
In November?
No, not that it will happen this year, but by November, we'll know that eventually
Right.
that'll be his fate, whether he'll succeed or fail.
Wow. I can't go there right now. I wouldn't say November. I would say maybe after this season.
Well, November's pretty close to the end.
I understand.
To me, I think there can be red flags, certainly. I don't know that it'll be this year. I think but I do think, even though I talk about 2025 as this year where they ought to be able to, that ought to be enough time to compete where you're going to eventually compete. I do think 2024, a year from now, you should really see it. You should, because you don't just leap from, very rarely from, 6-6 to elite. It only happens when you have an elite unit. Like when you look back at the Michigan State teams that did that, from 2012 to 13, for example, their defense was elite in 12. Not as good as it was in 13, but they just had one side of the ball that couldn't get their act together. It's rare that you go from mediocrity throughout the program. So we ought to see some elite level stuff developing by 2024. And there ought to be some signs this year that there ought to be some young players you go, boy, like they may have 3 starting defensive backs who are sophomores. And, if those guys are all promising players, that's a really good sign for the program moving forward, even if the defense still takes some lumps here and there.
Dominic next, number 1. Yo, Couch. It is not the listener's job to build some Lester Freeman-style red yarn whiteboard case against Woj in his newsroom of Schembechler bootlicking Smurf penises. We've provided no less than a bajillion blue wall examples through the years. Indict them, Grammy.
I haven't written them down, though. So
2, Chris Ilitch being a cheap ass with his daddy's fortune is the most infuriating shit ever. Usually it's the old man that sucks, works with the Blackhawks. He and his great-great-grandchildren are set forever. How dare you give us this product every year? And 3, Elon's greatest mistake is hiding Tony Dombrowski from me. I never see Tony D anymore. I need my meltdowns. This is not fun.
There are people that I never see on Twitter anymore, and I just sort of forget about at times. It's just a very different landscape.
How can you not see Tony Dombrowski though? It's brutal.
I do think that we're going to get to the point very quickly. I mean, we're probably already there, where the drumbeat for Ilitch to put up or shut up and sell the team has to be constant from people who have a voice to do so. Because at a certain point, you're right. You're not the one who built your wealth. Well, it is almost worse when it's money that came from the family. Now you've got the team, and now you're not willing to spend it.
And your dad was the guy that would spend.
Yeah. Like, it's one thing if you build yourself up from your bootstraps, earn enough to buy a team, and then want to be smart and a little frugal. I don't love that in baseball because you don't have a salary cap. You probably shouldn't have bought a baseball team. But at least it was your hard-earned money that created this situation for you.
And how should Tiger fans show their displeasure? Not go to games? I mean, as bad as they are, it's still on a nice summer day. It's fun to go once or twice a year to Comerica.
Still your major league team. Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough situation.
AI God next. Number 1, I'm the guy who parlays every MSU game prior to the 11-win season and insane lines. I had MSU plus 10 in some games. They were favored. Purdue game ended it. My take is that type of bet would pay out this year. MSU is extremely underrated, but DraftKings and FanDuel won't let me parlay them now. 2, 90% of college football fans do not care about the transfer portal, NIL, or expansion. They simply check to see what time their team plays and watch them. The 10% are message board and podcast people.
Well, we rely on those 10%. No, I think it's much greater than 10%. People care most about their teams, but I think they care about these issues. They do. They don't want the things around their team to deteriorate, to take away from the overall experience, because it affects their team. If it didn't affect their team, they wouldn't care, but it affects their team. To AI God's number 1, though, this is really interesting. And I hadn't realized that on some apps, and I have not looked at the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app, but that you could, on the advanced lines for college football season, where some of these apps give you every game, you could parlay them. And if you get a season where a team's truly underrated from what they become, you're right. You'll get great lines for
So he parlayed the whole season at one time?
Yeah, that's weird. But then, obviously you lose at the Purdue game. But if you're betting them individually as well, I'd like to know what the exact strategy you did and where you cashed out and how you rolled it over. Like if you parlayed all 12 weeks, needing to win all 12, and were you also betting individually? And it's interesting. It's an interesting idea. And if you think you've got a team that's grossly underrated, it's smart to get on those lines now if they're available.
The Uper next. As conference continues to expand, they will have to create regional-based divisions. We'll eventually lose those divisions and we'll begin to break off as independent conferences. Because time is a flat circle and everything we've ever done or will do, we're going to do over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, if you wind up with 6 teams on the West Coast and eventually you've got a Pacific division that's not a separate conference, but it's, I mean, yeah, I'm.
So he's saying it's going to go back. It's going to go full circle.
I do think, and this is one of my other hot takes that was up the level with I like Noah Kim. One of the things I do think that is possible is that the Big Ten will lose teams at some point. The Big Ten has not lost a team since the University of Chicago left and Michigan State came in. And people don't leave the Big Ten, but the Big Ten's never expanded like this. And I do think you could get to a point where UCLA has paid back its debt. USC thinks the trek to the playoffs too difficult. Oregon and Washington never loved this. The media rights deal ends. And they're like, hey, let's redo the Pac-12. And let's get something out. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying I could see a scenario where the Big Ten shrinks again in years to come, that this doesn't actually make people happy. And I'm talking about the members, not just the fans, but the fans would be part of that. And that was probably a better hot take. I should have gone with that.
We'll fix that in post.
Thanks.
Gavin Haas next. Number 1, conference realignment isn't as bad as everyone is making it out to be. While it eliminates the fun potential of rare out-of-conference matchups, it'll be electric being able to play schools such as Oregon and USC on a semi-yearly basis. 2, the 2016 MSU football team had no reason to go 3-9. Rewatching the Notre Dame game from that season, the running back room of Gerald Holmes and L.J. Scott was electric, along with young receivers like Donnie Corley Jr. 3, MSU football finishes 4th in the Big Ten East. Hoping that the improved offensive line is truly that. The refreshed running back room and consistent receivers, such as Trey Mosley and Malik Carr, should allow any of the 3 potential quarterbacks to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, Sam Leavitt, as talented as he is, true freshman, that's a lot. I would be really surprised if it's him. The 3-9 season certainly was a lot quarterback driven. They didn't have a quarterback. If you just have a above average quarterback, not a great quarterback, but above average quarterback slightly, you'd gone 6-6 just from there. So with all the other warts you had, there was talent. They didn't have the right leadership. And I still remember very distinctly a conversation with the tight end Jamal Lyles.
Cockburn.
And he was, I think, a senior that year, must have been a senior. And they were struggling with leadership. And he just point blank said, some groups are better following than leading. Like, they didn't have the guys. And it wound up being a group that didn't have the right mix. And they wound up with a freshman class that really needed to be led. And that wound up being ball game for that group.
Mr. Benjen with only one take. I like college sports about 25% less than I did before. Give me the basketball home and home with the Indiana teams, a tough Kinnick Stadium noon game for football, a freezing November game at Minnesota, meaningful postseason games against strangers, a beacon of light for Midwestern living. Wow.
This is our hot take of the day from Mr. Benjen here, who will receive his choice, either a gift card to Front 43 and Cask & Company, Midtown Brewing Company, or Groovy Donuts. I like this a lot because I think I've heard from people feel a little bit this way, and I think he summed it up nicely. He likes college sport about 25% less than he did before. Now, you're still going to love MSU, but if enough people like it a little less, is that a problem for college sports? I don't know. I don't know how much that lasts. But I do know that for all the excitement and buzz and of an Oregon game here, a USC game here, which, by the way, they've done in the non-conference, and if teams weren't so chicken shit, so many of them in the non-conference, you could just keep doing that in the non-conference. They had an idea that was called an alliance like 2 years ago, and they were going to play each other. You're going to have all this stuff without pillaging each other. But I do like the idea of meaningful postseason games against strangers. I love how that said. It's really well. I wish I'd use that in the column. I mean, there's something about, they're playing this team. You never see this team. That's interesting. And now it's like, well, it's another conference game. Or they played, they go out there all the time. The specialness is going to be taken away. A Kinnick Stadium noon game is still as good as it gets. I'm excited to go out there again this year. There are a lot of great things about the Big Ten that you don't want to lose. Now, at 18 teams, and it's not going to stop at 18, you can still mostly do playing every team every other year. And if you do that, and you're playing everybody in a 2-year span, you're going to get to Kinnick every 4 years. You're going to get to every place every 4 years, and everybody will see you every 4 years. And so it won't be like you're a stranger. But, you don't want to lose. You get any bigger, you're going to lose that. And then you're going to have to start talking about divisions again. I'll be curious to see what they do on that front as well.
Ryan Schultz next. Graham is right that the early MAC games can only tell you bad things about your team, nothing good. Don't forget that in 2019 we put up 51 on Western, and the offense was still ass. 2. That said, Noah Kim starts week 1, consistently looks better than Thorne despite the receivers lost. Caden Hauser transfers, and a small but vocal group of Hauser bros having an identity crisis all over Twitter.
There will be some people who don't. If Hauser doesn't work out and he left, there will be some people who are very, very upset because they've really tied themselves to him. And somehow, hold on, those were 2 and 3. I missed Ryan's first response. I don't know how that happened. Give me some Hoff real quick. Okay, here we go. He says the Big Ten eventually expands to 20 teams, creates 4 5-school pods that you play every year, with the winner of each pod going to a conference playoff. The first round is hosted by the 1 and 2 seeds. Conference makes the NCAA bump at the start of everything by a week to accommodate. We'll get into this later because somebody else has a similar take to that as well. But let's go to number 2 because I think this is really important. Like the first 2 games, you want football's back. You want to enjoy football. Wasn't that one of our hot takes once? Football's back. Yeah. That's the best part about it. It doesn't matter who you're playing, right? It's just you're back in the stadium with your brethren. The smells, the trough, everything you love about the stadium, and you want your team to look good, but the only thing that can really prove itself out of it is if you got a problem, and so that's what you want to try to avoid the first 2 weeks.
Kevin from Rochester Hills next. Number 1, college football has lost its identity. 2, horse racing is entertaining to bet, but watching Bill Parcells' horse break its leg was disturbing.
I didn't
3,
see that. Yeah.
The Rube is distraught over the USA being eliminated in the World Cup, but will watch every remaining match.
How much money would it take for you to watch every remaining match of the World Cup? Keeping in mind that that's 3:30 a.m. For the England game tonight.
$2,000 a game.
A game?
Yeah.
2,000?
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking at
That's
least like
price.
there's a lot of matches left. So you're talking at least like 20, 24 grand. I'm not sure how many matches are left, but like
I don't like soccer, so that's why I want $2,000
per game.
What am I supposed to say? $100 or $12?
Because you do it for $100.
$12.50.
Would you do it for $100 for $2,000 for the rest of the tournament?
To watch every game?
Every game the rest of the way. They're in the round of 16 right now.
Yeah. Do I have to watch?
I mean, what does that mean?
Gonna be doing something else?
I see what you're
check
saying.
in every once in a while.
I got you.
Now they are short though, so I guess I would. Yes, if you have it.
Yeah.
No one's paying me to watch fucking soccer. Ryan Rockwell next. Number 1, the Pac-12 was my second favorite conference. I'm going to miss watching those games. 2, the NCAA is a joke. Feels like they should have done something to keep a major conference together. And 3, you guys were spot on projecting 6-6 for MSU football. Would love to see better, but too many unknowns.
Yeah, 6-6 feels like it. I mean, that'll probably be my projection when I do my season predictions column. The NCAA is never going to be able to get in the way of the major conferences. They have more power than the NCAA at this point, and that's especially in football. That's the way it is. In basketball, it's a little different. The NCAA still has the big tournament at the end. Basketball doesn't drive as much of any of this. You don't hear any talk about basketball, what this means for basketball when these conference realignment things happen, because it just barely moves the needle financially relative to football.
Rich Searing next. Number one, the recent expansion is going to lead a conference that will have to divide into two conferences once it hits 20-plus teams. 2, unless MSU has a good kicking unit, which is still an unknown, we'll have a hard time winning 6 or more games. 3, the blue wall exists and will always exist. That's why I don't subscribe to the Detroit-based news sources.
I'm not going to do the blue wall thing. Sorry. The recent expansion is going to lead to a conference that will have to divide into 2 conferences once it hits 20-plus teams. I mean, that's when you get to 20, you got to have divisions at that point or pods or something. You just can't. You're not going to do 20 with just one standings. I mean, I guess the Premier League does it, and it works. But I don't see it. I think you will, because it becomes harder and harder as the schedules get farther and farther unbalanced to then put 2 teams in the championship game. But I really think you will wind up with some sort of system that splits teams once they get to 20.
Matt Boone next. Number one, NCAA will not control the Big Ten or SEC in 5 years. 2, the ceiling is the roof for MSU basketball, and it's going to hurt if they don't win it all. 3, trying to stay active to be in shape while also avoiding getting hurt from being active is an annoying balance in life.
It sucks. There's nothing worse than like doing something like playing a sport and hurting yourself playing that sport and being out for like a month, and now you can barely walk around. I mean, it's
especially when you're not good at it.
Right.
What am I doing out here?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
It's like golf. I'm like, what am I doing here?
The NCAA will not control. I don't think they control the Big Ten or SEC now. But if you mean they won't even be over them, I don't know. If it gets to that point where it's just 2 monstrosities that set their own rules and play for their own title, and it's some Super League crap, I don't know if I'll care.
Kurt Wisniewski next. Number one, the Big 18 is going to create 3 divisions. 4 teams play in for the Big 18 championship played at Soldier Field in 2024. 2, the 100th year at Spartan Stadium, MSU 10-2. 3, with all the conference realignment, there will be 69th bowl game, Couch the Rube Bowl, played in Kalamazoo.
That would absolutely be where we'd put our bowl game. Stay at the Radisson, be kind of fun.
The Radisson sounds nice.
Yeah, it's nice. It'd be good. Right downtown.
They don't have a motor lodge.
Well, they do, but we're
feel more comfortable in a motor lodge.
First class here. We're not going to do the motor lodge. So wait a sec. 3 divisions, 4 teams in the play-in for the Big Ten. So in other words, there would be a wild card. That's an interesting idea. I actually don't hate this. Because obviously if you're in a division that has the best team, if you've got Ohio State or you've got a year where somebody else is great and you're the second best team, but you may be the second best team in the Big Ten, that's not really fair if you're kept out of whatever that postseason playoff is. The problem is the idea of a semifinal in the Big Ten, then to get to a Big Ten championship game. In other words, 2 postseason games before the college football postseason. I just don't ever see it because ultimately, what are you going to do with the rest of the teams? You're not going to play 12 games, then 2, then the 12-team playoff, and you're not going to cut the other team's games. The only thing you could do is what they did the COVID year, and this is really hard to do with fans in the stands. That's what it was doable then, where you had what they were trying to keep the final week open and then schedule it late, and the idea was to put pair teams based on where they finished and all that stuff. That's just so logistically difficult to do. I do not see the idea of a semifinal in the Big Ten playoffs.
Thomas Zambiasi next. Number one, super conferences will split back into Power 5 within a decade. 2, final score aside, Friday night was a fantastic night to go to the Tigers game and enjoy the weather with some snacks and a drink. 3, MSU coordinators will do a respectable job and survive the season.
See, that's the problem with the Tigers. Like, they can suck, and you could want to show your displeasure by not showing up, but all you're really doing is keeping yourself from a great night and great weather at the ballpark, right?
It sounds so fun, too, like so nice. I wish I could talk. Yeah, Friday night was fantastic. Yeah. We had snacks and a drink. Good for you, Thomas.
I do like again, this gets my extra shitty hot take about people leaving the Big Ten or whatever. It would be interesting if super conferences come together, people don't like them, you're back to a Power 5 within a decade. I could see it happening.
Josh Heathius next. Number 1, obvious take, but conference expansion is out of control. No one wants it, yet we're doing it anyway. 2, coaches, trustees lamenting after the fact is tiresome. You're the ones who actually have some power here. And 3, 18 feels like a weird number, but the Big Ten can keep Flex Plus model with 10 games.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about 18 is it does actually, it is easier than 20 teams in terms of football scheduling. Because at 18, if you have some teams 2 real protected rivals, Iowa's probably going to have to give up one of theirs. But if you have 17 other teams, and if you played 10, you could do the Flex Plus model. Even if you did a 9-game schedule, you could still do just about everything. There would have to be some modifications made because Michigan and Michigan State are going to play every year. Ohio State and Michigan are going to play every year. Those 2 things are not going away in any schedule. You want to talk about a tattoo bet? Right there. They're not. The Michigan State game, the Ohio State-Michigan game, not going away. And so you have to, and so if you only play 9 games and you get to a certain amount of teams, for Ohio State and Michigan, then they're not going to play every team every other year. And maybe that's just what the answer is.
Nestle's Quick Hotel next. Number 1, the issue with expansion isn't difficulty of schedule. It's multiple 11 p.m. road kickoffs in one season. 2, similarly, there will inevitably be a season where USC has to fly across the country 5 times in one season. 3, finish the construction on campus and on the 127 exit already. Bonus, we're headed to a 14-game regular season. By 2030, the season will start in mid-August and go one weekend into December.
It's going to be really tough to do that. Because the players don't want that. And the players are getting more and more power in this. And so unless there's real financial incentive for them to do it, it ain't going to be an NIL deal. It's going to have to be salary-based or payment-based or contract-based, union-based, whatever it is. I don't know. But getting to 14 games I think, is less likely in the regular season than ever. And yeah, you will have some, they're going to have to try to minimize the 11 p.m. road kickoffs for Midwest Big Ten teams, and they're going to have to try to do it. It's one of the advantages of having Stanford or Cal also join. It's the advantage for USC and UCLA to a degree of having Oregon and Washington join, although they're still far away, but at least they're in the same time zone, and they'll probably, at least for the start, feature those teams playing each other quite a bit.
Joshua Rail next. Not much of a hot take, but I watched Big Ten in 60 Minutes today, and they had MSU versus Minnesota from last season. I forgot just how bad this team was last year, even beyond the 5-7 record. I'm dropping my prediction from 8-4 to 6-6, maybe even worse after losing Coleman and Reed.
That's how bad that Minnesota game was last year. A year later, it's making people predict fewer wins.
So Joshua forgot about it, decided to go back, and then change his prediction.
You want to talk about a glutton for punishment? Like, I bet Jason would even rather watch a bad soccer game than that. That was
no, I'd watch that again. Yeah.
That's the sort of game that should never happen, though. And I know that was probably the height of their injury problems and just not being in a good place as a team. I get that, but just the lack of competitiveness in that game, and the lack of preparedness, they just got their ass kicked, and that sort of game should not happen.
Gary Lipka next. I never thought I would see the day that the head football coach at CMU would be paid over $1 million per year.
Whoa, is he really? What's that sell? Hang on, give me some Hoff.
I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me. Girl, you just don't realize what you do to me.
Holy shit. Yeah. Jim McElwain's at more than $1 million a year.
Humping sharks and everything. What a baller.
That's but that's good. That's how you keep a guy. That's how you keep continuity. When I first started covering Western Michigan, when I lived in Kalamazoo, Bill Cubitt, who was the head coach there, made $169,000. Like, I mean, a lot of his staff was making under $100K, and that was a huge problem because they started to win, and every coordinator job at that point in the Power 5 was paying more than that. And it took the MAC a while to catch up, took certain schools a while to sort of start to move a little bit more toward where the rest of college football was. But $1 million at Central is pretty damn good.
But you've heard the McElwain story, right?
With Humphrey
The
the
shark.
Yeah.
Like he looked like a guy
Yeah, it
who was
wasn't
butt
him.
naked on top of a shark. I mean, what are the odds? That's got to be unfortunate. John Crager next. Number 1, I am back and recharged. What deflates me is seeing college sports going in the direction that it is. 2, the Lions will not hit the over on win totals. They can't handle success. 3, MSU does hit the over on win totals. They surprise us.
So it's what, 5.5? I mean, I'm picking 6, so that's not that hard to do. I think 6 is reasonable. The big thing for me is that I can also see them at 5 wins going into that finale against Penn State. So I think at that point you're better off just betting them as a big underdog. I don't think they're a great play this year, even if they do. Are you betting a Lions over on the win total? No. Okay.
No.
You just worried you jinx them or what?
All of it.
Yeah.
I mean, the number's 9.5. I like 10 wins, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Can't do it. Jay Riemenschneider next. Number 1, whether it's MSU, Iowa, or even the unrivaled Penn State, there's so much more to college sports than just your record versus your rival. 2, the Big Ten already had USC and UCLA, now adding Oregon and Washington. What the league just did was make it ridiculously harder for every football team and fan base not named Ohio State to have non-frustrating, enjoyable seasons. That goes for the incoming schools, too. 3, Graham, if I hear you say Michigan fans will take a 0-30 basketball season if it means winning a national title in football, one more time, I'm coming after you because it ain't true.
I do not. Jay is not every Michigan fan, though. He is a Michigan basketball fan as well. I think the majority of Michigan fans would take an I'm not going to say it because I want you to come after me. So I'll stop. I'll stop. But you know what I mean. I think his second point is really, really good here, though. It is going to make it harder for every Big Ten team and fan base not named Ohio State to have non-frustrating, enjoyable seasons. That's a really great point. And I think there's going to be less fun eventually. There might be some fun matchups. Hey, going out to Oregon. Oh, wait, Oregon, then Ohio State, then Penn State? Shit, that's a lot, and that stuff matters. The cadence of a season absolutely matters. And when I covered mid-major football, that was something they talked about. Like if you're playing a non-conference schedule and you're playing all these bye games where you're being bought to play at Auburn or at Wisconsin and you're in the MAC, you don't want to play those 3 straight weeks because by the time you roll into conference play, you're just beat up. You want to try to have some conference, some other mid-major games in between there. The cadence to the season for some of these teams is going to get tough. There are going to be some years where it's like, holy smokes, look at that stretch. And that's going to lead to some really tough years.
Matt Venny next. Did you screw up his too?
I screwed up his. Let me read his one, and you can read his too. If conferences keep getting bigger, having an end-of-season in-conference playoff will be the only way to determine a true conference champion. I don't think it'll happen. And also, this is Elon's fault. I don't know why I didn't see his one. Okay.
2, the group of 5 conferences should form their own football subdivision and have their own playoffs and national champion. 3, everybody is talking about football when it comes to conference realignment. Not enough people are talking about college basketball or the non-revenue sports, of which scheduling is going to turn into an absolute clusterfuck.
Yeah, because those aren't the reason these decisions are made. I think there are in basketball. It starts to get pretty clear, right? You're pretty much in the Big Ten going to have you play everybody once. If you keep it at a 20-game schedule, you play 3 teams twice, but it's pretty much a one-play system. And the more teams, if they get to 20 teams, maybe you just play an 18-game schedule and play everybody or 19. Whatever. You play everybody once. You get the point. I do think I don't agree with you. Number 2, the idea that the football subdivision should just have their own playoffs and national champion. The group of 5 conferences should form their own subdivision, because ultimately, part of what makes it attractive to go to the Mountain West or the MAC is that you're still part of the highest division. You're still living the dream, no matter how far-fetched. And that's one of the great things about the 12-team playoff is that ideally includes more people in the dream.
David Cox next. Universities should be able to get simple math correct. I've hated that they call it the Big Ten ever since they went well above 10. It's embarrassing. Now that there are only 2 conferences left, does the brand Big Ten really even matter? Change the damn name.
You want them to change the name.
I don't. It's fine if you don't want to do it. Big 20? Big 20 sounds all right.
The problem is if you can't settle what they understood at the Big Ten was that they were going to keep messing with their overall number. And so the branding keeps getting lost in that. And for a while, I think that nobody wanted to be the Big 11, and they were just Penn State. You don't want to be a big odd number, right?
Yeah, Big 19
Yeah,
doesn't work.
It doesn't. So
it's got to flow.
The Big Ten is just a brand is more than it is an actual number at this point.
But if you do Big 10 20 and you add 2 teams, it's 22. I guess you could just keep it at 20. Jarrett next. Number 1, AJ Hoggard gets drafted this upcoming year. 2, MSU beats Washington, but the Huskies still make the playoffs. 3, I would take the Chiefs beating the Lions by 50 if it meant the Lions made the playoffs.
Would you sign up for that?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Why not? I mean,
absolutely.
I wouldn't be excited about losing by 50. But yeah, playoffs.
There's a lot of love for AJ Hoggard, and we're going to get into that in these next few hot takes because there was a video of him competing against DeMar DeRozan and some other NBA guys, and some reports from Jonathan Giavoni from ESPN about how well Hoggard played in those games. And
did Hoggard get in his bag, like the kids say? All right, clocked in.
I'll ask that question in the locker room.
You know all the hip lingo.
I do.
Clocked in Spartan. Number 1, AJ Hoggard is a lottery pick next year. 2, Booker plays less than 8 minutes per game this season. 3, the Cooper over Kohler craze this summer will age as one of the worst MSU takes of all time.
These are hot takes. This is what we want. Hot takes. Hoggard lottery pick. Booker less than 8 minutes a game. Cooper over Kohler craze is one of the worst takes of all time. I mean, this is clocked in Spartan is putting his money where his mouth is. Actually, there's no money where your mouth is, but you know what I mean. He's saying things. So there is a chance though that Kohler still look, Kohler had a great summer at Moneyball, which means 0, but there is a chance, given his fitness level, given his understanding of what he couldn't do last year, that he has a really good year. There's absolutely that chance. I think he really didn't know what he didn't know coming in, and he realized it real quick. When you talked to him at Moneyball last year, he thought he was a guy who's going to be a big-time impact freshman. He realized after like 6 minutes in the opener that he was in trouble. And the problem is once that happens in the season, you can only do so much once the season starts. The roster is what it is. You're as ready as you're going to be ready. That work kind of has to be done to a large degree in the offseason. Now, you can grow and develop, and we saw moments where he showed flashes, but he knew he had to sort of change who he was.
Travis Maynard next. Number 1, AJ Hoggard is about to have a Jalen Brunson-esque final year and an Andre Miller-esque NBA career. 2, MSU is a basketball school, and there's proof. It says so on the new Tom Izzo football building. 3, fine. MSU is neither a football or basketball school. It's an Izzo school.
You know who should have a deal with Muskox? Tom Izzo.
Don't coach my team.
Talking about a UP guy. He should be doing Muskox ads. I'll talk to him about that. By the way, if you want a Muskox flannel, you want to look as good as Jason and I do, as good as Tom Izzo would in a Muskox flannel, go to gomuskox.com. Check out their fall lineup, which actually their fall lineup is just coming out. But check out their offering, some great flannels. And their summer flannels, they still have lighter options as well. So if you want something you can wear on a cool summer night by the lake, Muskox has it for you. Go to gomuskox.com, and you can use the promo code CAWCAW15 for $15 off. You can also, they have bundling options. If you go to gomuskox.com/CAWCAW, different thing, bundling options with hats and flannels and shirts and other really cool things for some great deals with Muskox. Did I answer the question? It is an Izzo school. That's a great way of putting it. He is the biggest figure on campus, but it is also a football school.
ULA Mog next. Number 1, not everything needs to be profitable or have its value maximized. The highway system isn't profitable, but somehow there is an expectation for public transit to be profitable. Make it make sense. 2, there needs to be more Sunday golf featuring players that are struggling. It was enjoyable to watch JT miss the fairway and figure out ways to get out of a jam. And 3, AJ Hoggard will have a long NBA career and will get a second contract.
You remember when we didn't know how to pronounce his name?
AJ Hoggard.
Hoggard. Ugh, that sounded bad.
We had him on A-hole a lot.
Fix that in post. The big AJ Hoggard love here all of a sudden from a guy that drove people nuts last year. Look, he does have some NBA abilities, and it was interesting to see that response sort of from a guy who covers prospects all the time and how he did. Because, look, as a downhill player, as a guy who can defend, as a guy who's got an NBA body, if he keeps himself in shape, proves the jumper a little, I mean, he's a guy who should get not just a look, but should be a draft pick. Now, whether he's a long NBA career guy and all that stuff and a lottery pick, that's going to have to take a heck of a year. I do think as a point guard, though, you can win yourself. It's a one position you can win yourself into a higher draft spot than maybe the NBA would otherwise take you. Like, just look at Denzel Valentine as number 14. I think that's where Cleves went. These were guys who were looked at as winners and were looked at revered for what they did at the college level. And can you bring that sort of consistency as a senior? Would you like to see the golfers who are struggling the most, like a camera on that person pretty regularly?
Well, it depends what channel you watch. I think they do show those sometimes, but it is kind of fun to watch those pro guys when the course is really tough.
Yeah,
it is fun, but you don't want to watch it all the time. Plus size softball dad. Number 1, people cheering against the women's soccer team because they don't like their politics or whatever they fucking suck. 2, guess it's as good a time as any to rebuild the women's program. And 3, no shame in making money off this loss.
I agree. I mean, Sweden was,
of course, you would agree,
was the play that was where the value was. There's no issue there. Yeah, no. I mean, I know there's a lot of polarizing figures. Megan Rapinoe being the biggest of them on the women's national team, but it is weird to sort of say they're not patriotic by not liking the U.S. national team. It's a little bit hypocritical.
Nate Rhodes next. Number 1, Megan Rapinoe missed her penalty kick on purpose. She is the main reason the U.S. women are out of the World Cup. 2, Garrick Norman will be the best player out of this freshman class. And 3, Jackson Kohler will start and will average 12 points a game.
I can't imagine she missed that on purpose. I know she had kind of this wry smile where I think there was a little disbelief. And, when they asked her afterwards, Megan Rapinoe, this is her biggest takeaway or accomplishment or memory. It was the equal pay thing, and that ticked people off. But look, she stands up for what she believes in. You may not believe in the same things or like her, but I think there's just so much misogyny in the anti-Rapinoe stuff. And was she helpful in this? Now, when you say she's the main reason the U.S. women are out of the World Cup, she was not good in this World Cup. There's no doubt about that. So from a on the field standpoint, that's I don't know if she's the main reason, but she didn't come in and contribute the way I think they were hoping that she would. And then obviously she missed a penalty kick that
she missed on purpose.
That she absolutely missed on purpose. Garrick Norman be the best player out of the Michigan State freshman class. We'll hold on to that and see if that pans out. I do think he's an intriguing prospect. It's just a numbers game, and given he's a pretty slender dude, I just find it hard to believe that he's going to have a huge role this year, but he could be a guy that a couple years from now you're looking at as a real player.
Andrew Gauthier next. Number 1, the U.S. women's national team's run of dominance is over. Not saying they won't be good, but other countries have caught up. 2, 16-plus team conferences are ass. 3, even if he believes it, Graham will never publicly give credibility to blue wall theories. Bonus. Much like Monopoly, euchre, if played with the wrong group, can end relationships.
I played euchre yesterday with Andrew and Monica and Elizabeth, and we're never going to speak to each other again. So that's what he's talking about.
Oh, yeah?
It didn't go well.
What do you mean? Who's not talking to each other?
No, I'm just kidding. It didn't go. My wife got pretty drunk, though. She was pretty... I
don't blame her.
Yeah. Yeah, she was...
got to play euchre with you.
Yeah, no, I would...
Do people really get mad at euchre?
He's kidding.
Not you.
No.
I'm just talking about in general.
No.
I don't play euchre.
Yeah, no.
All right. Cucker Tarleson next. New Zealand was probably a lot of fun for the athletes, but could there be a worse time zone for the U.S. coverage of the World Cup?
Probably not. It does suck because I would watch a lot more, and I just can't do the middle of the night games. And, on a Sunday, I thought I was going to take a nap. 5 a.m. is doable, but I won't do 5 a.m. during the week because
you're not insane.
It's going to screw up your whole day.
What about when the World Cup was in Qatar?
The time
they're like a week ahead.
They were a week ahead, but it was at least the time wasn't so off, even though it was Friday when it was Tuesday. Jeez. It was easier, yeah.
Bo McJunkins, number one. It's weird seeing people on social media happy with the U.S. team lost, purely political as usual. 2, if Noah Kim wins the job, Hauser will never be the starter. Not saying I want that, but Levitt will follow due to timing. 3, the wide receiver room will be the most surprising group on the roster. We are young, but we'll be just fine.
The number 2 thing is interesting. If Noah Kim wins the job, Hauser will never be the starter, but Sam Levitt will follow due to timing. Timing will be interesting. Now, it's not just about winning the job for Noah Kim. It's about performing all year because I think this year it's very unlikely that a true freshman would be the backup. And so it would be about Noah Kim on a team that may have some warts, that's going to take some lumps, having those lumps not be him to the point that they're intrigued by the other guy. So if that happens, then that's all good. If Noah Kim, with a whole nother year left, has a year that's that good that there's just no doubt he's the guy, then you deal with one of the other guys leaving, and then maybe that's Caden Hauser. Mel Tucker said something when he was asked about Peyton Thorne leaving, and he talked about the reason you have 4 quarterbacks now is you kind of know you might lose one. He didn't know it was going to be Peyton Thorne, but that's just going to be the way it is. You try to recruit to have 4, one of them's often going to leave, and you're going to go into a lot of seasons with 3, and you just can't get too attached because a lot of times if the timing doesn't work out or they don't see a path that's immediate for them, they're not going to stick around. I think at quarterback where you hope over time a lot of guys realize where they're going to be rewarded for sticking around, but you only get one shot at this. And so if you don't trust the coaching staff, if you don't think you're getting a fair look, if you don't love everything about your situation, you got to go.
David Jackson, next, number 1. The Big Ten representatives responsible for the theft of 4 Pac-12 schools will have a legacy of failure. 2, everyone sleeping on the Red Wings is going to regret it, playoff bound in 24. 3, this latest Big Ten expansion has put the future of the annual game with Michigan in jeopardy.
I don't think it will be. It's just not. I mean, they're going to play that game. And whatever the scheduling mishaps that this will create, it won't be that. And just, I think you can really rest assured. We are going to take a really quick break. When we come back, many more of your hot takes. Couch in the Rube, presented by Muskox Quality Flannels.
Where else can you cheer on your team, enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi, sip on handcrafted cocktails, or one of 46 beers on tap? Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen Bar or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. 2 amazing places with 1 awesome blended modern American Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. If you're looking forward to cool summer nights at the lake or backyard gatherings, make Muskox's spring and summer flannel collection part of your summer experience. Muskox's lighter weight 3 seasons flannel is perfect for warmer weather without sacrificing Muskox's noted softness or high quality. Plus, Muskox donates 10% of every $100 purchased to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center. Visit GoMuskox.com to find the absolute best flannel for you and use our promo code CAW15 for $15 off your flannel order. Trust us, you've never felt more comfortable than you will in a Muskox flannel.
Christmas is around the corner and beautiful jewelry is on her Christmas list. So where will you go to buy that gorgeous diamond ring or that sparkly diamond necklace or that incredible diamond bracelet? Meadowar Jewelers' 4 locations by the Lansing Mall by Meridian Mall in Jackson and in Portage have the largest selection and the latest designs of beautiful jewelry that she's been dreaming of. If an engagement ring is on your mind, come into Meadowar Jewelers and let our professional staff explain to you all about natural and lab-created diamonds. Our diamonds are set by master jewelers whose passion for their art shows so clearly in each and every piece. So, for that perfect gift that's on her Christmas list, come into Meadowars by the Lansing Mall, by Meridian Mall, in Jackson and in Portage, and we'll help you find it.
Find Couch in a Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite, Podcast Addict.
Couch in the Rube, our Sunday night show brought to you by our friends in Muskox Quality Flannels. You can enjoy the comfort and quality and durability and softness and just the good vibes, the good look of a Muskox flannel by going to gomuskox.com and use the promo code CAWCAW15 for $15 off your flannel purchase. Back to your hot takes.
Big Cat next. Number one, a 2,900-mile flight from Oregon to Rutgers for a volleyball game won't be profitable. 2, MSU football lands at least one more four-star starter in the class of 24. 3, the Big 18 basketball tourney moves to Vegas.
It'll be interesting to see if they, at some point they're going to throw these schools a bone and do a tournament in Portland or at least L.A. or someplace, Seattle. It will be interesting to see what they do with that stuff. The tournament this year is in Minneapolis. They did one in New York. So they probably will move it around at some point if those schools, if all this sticks that's happening right now. And by the way, volleyball is never profitable. So it less so if you're going Oregon to New York, but and that'll be interesting. They're going to have to do some creative scheduling, I think, with some of the non-revs.
Matt C. next. Number one, best scheduling idea I've seen for the Big Ten is 8 conference games, and the 9th is a round robin where the top 4 play each other in conference title semifinal. This would be epic if the playoff were before the playoff. 2, Graham, stop whining about expansion. Majority of fans don't want to play Rutgers, or he says Butgers, Maryland, Indiana, or Minnesota every year. These schools add nothing to the Big Ten. Bonus. Well, his bonus is before 3.
Yeah, that's my bad.
3, if the Big Ten actually wants to start beating the SEC, elite expansion and tougher schedules are the way to go. Iron sharpens iron. It's easier to get into a 12-team playoff so you can have 2 losses. And bonus, the one-time transfer rule is ruining college football, not expansion or NIL. The players need contracts for the NIL. You think Hopcat is happy with the money they wasted on Thorne?
I don't think it was a huge deal, but it was
a good promotion.
Yeah, it was a good promotion.
It was a good burger.
It was a really good burger. Yeah, no, I don't think. I don't think the whole thing worked out perfectly. It was the Michigan guy Eric All who left the program. They had a burger with him, so that didn't.
It's going to happen.
Those sort of things are absolutely going to work out. Look, I think a lot of fans, Rutgers and Maryland, and but there are a lot of Big Ten traditions that people do like, and Minnesota is one of them, and Indiana is one of them. Bloomington, Indiana is one of the great college towns in the world. You know what I was thinking as you were reading that? You should volunteer to read to children. You got such a soothing...
be like you and not have a kid and volunteer for kid stuff.
Yeah, it does get weird a little bit. But but people would like you go into schools, you read books to kids. You'd be good. You'd be good.
How much?
You're charging me
$2,000. Well, it's my time. Am I on probation? Do I have to do community service? I mean,
$2,000 a kid or $2,000 a book?
A book.
Okay.
I don't know. A session? Spartan 18770. Number one, everyone is outraged over the demise of the Pac-12. Well, when was the last time most of us watched an entire Pac-12 game played on the West Coast? No one cares about their games or watch them. The conference was barely more popular than the MAC conference. Wow. 2, last show, Graham was railing against the Big Ten on bullying other conferences to make money. He then ends it with a promotion to a betting sports app. Great product placement, Graham. Caw, caw. 3, women don't fake. My ex-girlfriends would tend to disagree.
So the I watched the Pac-12 late at night. I love the Pac-12 at night. I watch
especially when Leach was there, Washington State.
Yeah, I watch a lot more Pac-12 than I do other leagues, partly because I'm often covering Michigan State during the day. So I would say I watch more Pac-12 than anybody on a Saturday other than MSU.
But you're kind of an outlier, right? I mean, guys
Right.
like us that watch it, how many people actually watch the Pac-12 games?
He is right that, I mean, part of the Pac-12's problem is that they don't have the fan intensity out there that you do other places. I mean, UCLA is a blue blood and brand only, but I'm going to tell you right now that they have not been like Pauley Pavilion, even in basketball. Boy, there were a lot of crowds there that look like the Mid-American Conference that they don't sell out. And they've been better in recent years because they've been really good. But they're holding on to John Wooden and a little bit of Jim Carrick in the 90s pretty hard. And some of their football crowds have just been abysmal, and that's why financially they've been in some trouble too. And the whole Pac-12, you see some of the crowds at Stanford. It's just different out there. There's no question about it. That's an issue for them.
Chris Eastlick next. Number one, Michigan needs 24/7 road construction in the summer if we're going to do all of these projects. I can deal with some, but almost 3 hours to go from Saginaw to Detroit is crazy. The detours had detours. 2, the more I think about the season, the more I think this MSU basketball team will win the national title. Other teams may have similar talent. This team has the added chemistry and experience. 3, I still hate expansion. People can say, well, think of the great games, but you can't get those by not scheduling soft, and then you save the conferences.
Yeah, I mean, if you can play those in the non-conference. Michigan State's playing Washington this year. They played Washington last year. They played Oregon twice in the last decade. You can get what you want out of this. You know, you can do this without actually having other teams in the conference.
His first take, though, is I've been saying for a long time. I think I've said it on this show.
Costs a lot of money, though.
Well,
I would take you can raise my taxes if we can go 24
right
24/7 on road construction. I agree.
Wouldn't night construction be the ideal? I understand it's dark, obviously, but it's
and you see it some places.
Out.
Yeah, you don't see it as much in Michigan. You know, I mean, because I know what you mean by like Saginaw to Detroit 3 hours. That's ridiculous. And like I'll probably never go to Troy, Michigan again because I had this one experience. I had to go cover a girls' state soccer championship game in Troy. From Kalamazoo to Troy took me like 4.5 hours when 696 and all this other stuff was being redone. And like
but it just seems like it's always going on.
But I think of Troy right now. I think of that day, that drive. I have no interest in going to Troy. You would have you talk about $2,000 to read to children.
Why is it Troy's fault?
$2,000 for me to go to Troy.
How is it Troy's fault though? It's the construction leading up to Troy.
It's Troy's fault.
Neurotic. Number one, I like MSU sports because it's my parents' alma mater, but I grew up near MSU. Green and white, Spartan Stadium, rivalry with Michigan and the Big Ten are part of that. The more traditions are ended, the more fans like me are alienated. 2, this started with Maryland, Rutgers, and Nebraska being taken in. Those schools have zero Big Ten tradition. And 3, no Power 5 football program is without blemish. None. The whore Ann Arbor should get off their high horse.
So I feel you on one here, Neurotic. Like I do think, and people can say, oh, that's bullshit, but this is how he feels. Like he feels the more traditions are ended, the more that he's alienated. He likes it less. It's less fun. And we've seen other ones like that. Somebody else, 25% less. They liked it. You know, like these are real fans. Now,
but
how much
can you get over it, though?
Right. And how much does that change viewing habits and how much does that really matter in the long term? I don't know. It's a good question.
I still love gambling because I agree with what he's saying, but I just still think gambling will overtake any of my emotions, and everything from my childhood sucks now anyway, so I'm just used to it.
Well, that's also the problem with legalized gambling in a sense of comparing ratings today. Like we're still new enough into that's going to prop up and sort of create a false market in terms of how much interest there actually is or how disgusted people are with certain things, and you may not actually know. But look, Rutgers is not a great fit. I don't think a classic Big Ten team. Haven't hated Maryland and Nebraska as much. I think change is okay to a degree. Those schools, and Maryland's not the perfect footprint. They're a perfect ACC school, but and Nebraska, probably belongs still in the Big 12. But that could have been really good if Nebraska hadn't fallen off. And that didn't destroy another league. I guess that did happen at the time. There was a lot of topsy-turviness happened, right? But I don't actually remember. I'm talking about my ass. Fix this in post.
Mike Scott, number one. In regards to pathetic U.S. soccer, Jason, in your best Bob Uecker voice, I do a Bob Uecker?
I want to hear your Bob Uecker.
1 goal. That's all we got. 1 goddamn goal.
It's pretty good. It's all right. All right.
2, remember about 4 years ago when Baltimore was the worst team in the major leagues? Now they have the best record in the AL. Makes me even more pissed off at that ass clown, Alavila. 3, the NBA money is just insane. 3 years and $186 million for Anthony Davis. 5 years, $304 million for Jaylen Brown. Apparently teams can afford it, but that's just lunacy. I can justify $50 million a year for Patrick Mahomes, but half the NBA regular season games are unwatchable.
The NBA money is amazing. It's gonna. I mean, you're gonna have a lot of guys making $60, $70 million a year.
But it's not just the good guys. It's the fringe, like the 8, 9, 10 guys on the bench that are getting like $45 million.
Well, those guys are going away because of the new CBA. Like, those guys are making almost nothing now. You're getting Eric Gordon making $2 million. Like, it's going to be an all or nothing situation.
Yeah, but those guys are older though. They're just trying to get a ring. Like Russ, he's getting $1 million, and people are freaking out about that.
The way that they pretty much created a hard cap with some of the new second apron tax rules. It's gonna change for some of it, but your top 2 guys are going to get paid. And the money is absolutely insane. And some of the guys who are getting it, I'm not sure it makes sense. And this is what the Pistons are going to deal with in coming years. Like, ultimately, in
coming years, they just paid a coach $100+ million.
What I'm talking about, dealing with the cap and stuff. And luckily, the first sort of max deals you can offer are lower amounts coming off the rookie deal than they are later on. But they're going to have a number of guys they're going to have to make decisions on. And that's why keeping a guy like Cade healthy. And there are great reports. The Athletics on some good reporting on how he's been doing for the NBA select team against the U.S. team, just dominating. And he said he would have played for the U.S. team. They would have had him, but he didn't. He wanted to be in the right shape for the Pistons season and didn't want to play all those extra games. They need him healthy with all those young guys to sort of start to see what they've got.
Adam, next, number 1. A 20-team Big Ten with an East and West division is no better than just having the Big Ten and Pac-10. 2, instead of super conferences, I'd rather they just get rid of the conferences altogether. 3, glad football season is close so that the thoughts of the Tigers can just fade away.
Get rid of conferences altogether doesn't work. I mean, I know you're just saying you don't like super conferences, so you'd rather this, because although it would be interesting, because if everybody had to sort of schedule and you based, if they could truly base how good a team was by how hard they scheduled, and I don't know, it would be a fucking disaster. Let's be honest. But yeah, I'm with you. 20-team Big Ten with an East and West division is, why not just have the Big Ten and Pac-10? Now that said, there's only gonna be like maybe 6 from the Pac-10, and who else goes west? It's Nebraska, it's Iowa, Minnesota. Who else is out that way? Somebody else is going out that way. I can't think of the other team. Wisconsin? No, Wisconsin's probably not.
Nate, next. I have no clue how to make this a hot take, but I just finished the last show, and I need you guys to explain who you expect Chris Ilitch and the Tigers to spend money on in free agency this year. The free agent class is horrible this year. Overspending on average players is how we ended up forced to watch Javi Baez and Jordan Zimmerman and et cetera.
Well,
some bats, some guys that can fucking hit the ball.
Yeah, and what we don't know is, I mean, obviously there's the best one is our man Shohei, but there are a lot of guys who can opt out too, and so there are different categories here.
And Javi Baez was a head case with the Cubs. That's just Alavila being an idiot. Like you still need bats,
right,
in your lineup. So
right, and I think one of the things is not just free agents guys; it's guys who can opt out. And I don't know who all those are. I'm looking at the notable free agents here, and you're right. It's not a great class, and some of these things have club options. Some are opt-outs. Do you want, Whit Merrifield? Do you want? They really need a third baseman, right? So you've got Matt Chapman, Justin Turner,
Cockburn,
Josh Donaldson.
Cockburn.
That's a club option. That's
Cockburn.
Evan Longoria. It's not great. No, it's but look, you got to upgrade. You don't even have a major league third baseman at this point. You got to spend enough money to be competitive and figure out a way. And
there's some bats in the minor league system that should be up next year, hopefully. Parker Meadows, Colt Keith, those guys.
And you know who's an opt out if he really wants to? Who's not going to opt out? Javier Baez.
Oh, yeah. Where the fuck is he going?
Yeah. No.
John in the desert next. Number 1, sad for the Pac-10 or 12, whatever the fuck it is, but Big Ten had to move. The Pac-12 is now regretting not accepting Texas and Oklahoma when the chance was there. Windows close, especially if you don't walk through the open window.
Well, I think that they had an opportunity to get a lot of the I don't think they could get Texas and Oklahoma. Did they have a chance? I know there was conversations. I don't know if I think they would have accepted Texas and Oklahoma. I'm not sure what those discussions actually were, and yeah, I can't Google it now because it'll give me all this other bullshit. But yeah, just keep going. Sorry.
All right, number 2, Big 12 survived over to the Pac-12 because of the timing to get the deal done more than the value of brands. And 3, caw-caw.
So, yeah, I'm trying to see what this. I can't find the and I don't know to what degree. The Pac-12 definitely screwed this up. I'm not putting this all on the back. I mean, this was bad leadership. The Pac-12 is messed this up 2 commissioners in a row, and I think oversaw their importance at one point because I do think they're a more prestigious league than the Big 12, but they missed the boat here, and they screwed up the timing of the media rights deal. And they should look around their stadiums and say, hey, you know what? There's 7 people at the UCLA game. There's 12 at the Stanford game. What are we actually? We should know our ratings. How many huge ratings games are we drawing? And that's what TV networks really care about, the really big games. And you look at the number of big games now you're going to have in the Big Ten, and that's why the networks are intrigued. And the Pac-12, you know, outside of Oregon and USC, who is giving you those? You know, and so that's. I mean, I understand they should have had a better sense of where they were and signed a reasonable deal when they had the chance.
Tony and the Ducks next. Number 1, Brian Hoyer needs to come on the show and discuss his time with Johnny Manziel. 2, Moneyball with a large crowd is a beautiful sight. And 3, that's all I have for now.
Appreciate you, Tony.
And bonus. No, seriously, that's all I know.
It would be great. Brian Hoyer, although Brian Hoyer is.
So Manziel's got the documentary coming out. Are you intrigued at all? Or?
So there are a couple of guys who I think have local ties who would be interesting. Brian Hoyer with Manziel. I am intrigued. I'm not overly intrigued, but I'm intrigued. But Desmond Ferguson in 2004 had a cup of tea with the Jailblazers. I think that would be an interesting story to do. Like he wasn't there that long, so I don't know how much he got, but like he was like peak Jailblazers.
So the owner of Moneyball, you're saying?
Yes.
He played for the Trailblazers, who are known as the Jailblazers.
In 2004.
Classic.
Yeah.
Zach Randolph team?
Yeah. And Isaiah, what was his name?
Ryder?
J.R. Ryder. J.R. Ryder, yeah.
Rashid. Treese. Oh, Treese next. Parking at Home Depot is filled with important decisions. Buy entrance for quick walk-in, middle, so it's equal distance both ways, or exit, since I'll totally overbuy. Welcome to Jason's world.
All right, so what happened here?
She went to Home Depot today. This is her hot take, I guess. I don't know. It's honestly, it's the only thing we argue about is her driving. And when she gets into a parking lot, her mind is going 1,000. So she'll go into a parking spot and at the last second turn to another one, and it just drives me fucking insane.
Because it's not. She wants to be in a different place.
I don't know. I just think because listen, I was in a car accident in 2009, so I just always freak out about being a passenger in a car. So it's really nothing against my wife. It's just, she's a very safe driver. She's just not a very defensive driver.
Okay.
But this Home Depot thing, I wasn't there for. So.
Okay. Well, that is a story almost worth telling, presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company, 402 South Washington Avenue. If you don't know the address yet, unbelievable place for a beer after work or after hearing one of our stories. Just go walk
Hey, Jason, Home Depot parking lot. Go. Give us a story, funny man. You fathead.
Walk in.
Really? I'm sorry. Jesus.
Walk into Midtown Brewing Company. Say, I just listened to Couch in the Rube. They should comp your drinks. No, I'm kidding. They won't do that, but you'll enjoy them anyway.
Tyrone Couch, number 1. Graham and I are almost the same person in real life, minus the pledge BS, but I'm going to stick to the shtick. So, Graham, in real life, why would you not be my BFF? Is it my Xbox, my hick accent, or my obsessive enforcement of school laws? Is it annoying as fuck? But it's my job. 2, I've toured Washington's campus, but not been to a game. Which of the 4 new Pac-12 Big Ten stadiums should I go to first? I missed the Washington game last year, luckily, but I want to get to all 4. 3, Jason is basically the 10-year younger version of my uncle, almost in every way. So, Yates Cider Mill or Uncle John Cider Mill? The answer's clear. And my childhood proves it because I pretend to be more important than I am.
So which is your cider mill choice?
Whatever gets me out of it for football season. I don't care. Yates, where's Yates Cider Mill? Uncle John's Cider Mill's down the street from us. So
is Yates the one across the street from Uncle John's? There's another one where you can actually pick the apples right across the street.
God. Just get me there.
The donuts are what
Get me there and we'll do it.
The donuts are if I'm ever gonna have anything but a groovy donut, it's gonna be just one of those plain cider mill donuts with apple cider. That's a great. And you know what else goes really well at a cider mill? A muskox flannel, by the way.
Diabetes.
I would but I would also I would also wear a muskox flannel. Nothing about you annoys me, Tyrone. First of all, you've taken my preferred name for my child, Tyrone, and the last name Couch, which I love, and I have no issue with hick accents or school laws, and or annoying people may piss me off, but otherwise, in terms of the stadium, Washington was really cool. I've been to Oregon. It's a great atmosphere as well. I've not been to the Coliseum. The Rose Bowl is obviously where UCLA plays, so if you haven't done that, that's really cool. That would be number 1. So I'd go Rose Bowl 1. Washington's pretty sweet too. Washington 2. All 4 are good. I whatever Michigan State's playing, I say go.
And congrats on having a great uncle.
Yeah.
Nick Palmer next, number 1. I honestly thought Graham was going to break down crying at the question of if the MAC should go FCS. 2, who came up with the advertising campaign of the U.S. women's soccer team being unbeatable? The Pac-12. And 3, happy Hard Knocks week to all that celebrate.
Is this the beginning of Hard Knocks?
I guess so, yeah.
Excellent. Are you going to watch?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, I would watch, but I can't find the channel anymore because it's called Max or something like that. I don't know.
Like X.
Yeah.
Clint One Ball Bainey, number 1, happy anniversary to my beautiful wife, Brooke, today.
Happy anniversary.
Oh, yeah, that's great. 2, it's hard not to like poaching the top 4 brands of the Pac-10 or whatever we call them now. Yes, a little sad losing the Midwestern feel of the best conference in the land, but seeing those teams in our stadium every 2 or 3 years will be cool, and the future road trips out west will be equally cool. 3, not happy that I can't buy the 3-game home ticket package this year at Spartan Stadium. I like going to half the home games and watching the other half in my Spartan Victory Cave. I know. First world problems. Bonus. Rube. Fuck, marry, kill. Number 1. Snooki from the Jersey Shore. Amy Schumer, comedian. Kelly Clarkson, singer, talk show host. All right. I think I would fuck Snooki. I would kill Amy Schumer, and I would marry Kelly Clarkson. She seems like a nice lady. I used to like Amy Schumer. I really did. But now it's all like, everything is just like a political thing, and it's just not fun anymore. She used to be like hilarious. It's weird.
I haven't seen her in a long time and stuff.
I know. She used to write, like, her TV show on Comedy Central was hilarious. And
I don't know. Did they take away the ability to buy a 3-game home ticket package at Spartan Stadium? Maybe I didn't even know that existed. So that tells you where I'm at on that. But
sorry, I was busy fucking Snooki from the Jersey Shore.
Apparently,
I don't know what happened.
Yeah, excellent.
Some dude next, number 1, getting knocked out cold at second base has got to be the most embarrassing thing ever. But I have a hard time feeling bad for Tim Anderson. 2, very excited for the Lions season, but the hype train is really off the rails. Winning the division for the first time in 271 years will be enough for me, but then we'll have a home playoff game and end up in the NFC Championship. 3, everyone that likes live music must go to Red Rocks for a concert. Went last week for Ween. Total mind blower.
I want to go. I've been there to Red Rocks, but not for a concert, and it's a kind of a bucket list.
Did you do some mushrooms there, some dude? That would be really cool.
We already did the embarrassing thing. Yeah. Getting knocked out. How bad that would be. And
yeah. I did. It'll go away in 2 weeks, but it'll be. will it be the Nolan Ryan, Robin Ventura where we will see it over and over again? Because it was pretty interesting.
What's the most embarrassing fight or injury you've ever had? Doesn't have to be a fight. Any injury you have.
I've told this story, being tossed out by those. A Michigan Avenue in front of a row of people. One guy I used to work with
at a bar, right?
Yeah, it was over off Michigan Ave there, and it was a long time ago.
Yeah. Another story we're
Old
telling.
Drinking Rube days, but I got tossed on my ass, and it was kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, if you go to Midtown Brewing Company, by the way, it's a story almost worth telling. Do not get kicked out. Don't. And if you do get kicked out, don't tell them you know us.
Yeah, right. Dark Mantonio next. Number 1, if you've had a Coney dog anywhere from Flint, Lansing, Saginaw, even Pontiac, chances are it was a Kogel, a fine Flint product. As much as you love yourself some not so healthy food, I'm shocked you've never heard of them. It's like you two not knowing the difference of Flint and Detroit style.
I don't know the difference.
All right. 2, Harbaugh saying J.J. McCarthy reminds him of Mahomes because of work ethic and leadership. And Tucker saying that this is the most talented and deep team he's had, although I don't know if they're ready to win big. Both statements could be very true, as hyperbolic as they might sound to some. 3, there's nothing wrong with saying Michigan is the favorite to win the Big Ten, while also saying if a Big Ten team won a college football playoff title, chances are it's Ohio State. Matchups matter.
No, that's a really reasonable take because, Michigan's had Ohio State's number. That's a thing now. It truly is a thing. And then we just saw what happens in the playoff, and Ohio State clearly looked like the team most capable of taking out Georgia. Came within a kick of doing so, and screwed up a lot of other things. Really should have won the national title last year, and matchups do matter. But by the way, I do love some unhealthy foods. I also inhale my food. I don't take time to look at the branding. I don't even see if it's if it's been sitting out too long. I'll smell the milk, so to speak, but otherwise I'm just going all in. So
that's a terrible excuse. You didn't read the menu. Come on. Kogel's is it's a hot dog brand in here. You're the Michigan guy. You do the Pure Michigan commercial like every other show. You should know that.
I'm embarrassed, but I don't. I'm not going to lie. It's just like the Equalizer. I don't believe it.
I just eat my food so fast. Is that a Kogel's? I don't know because I just inhaled it. Fart soup. The recent hiatuses of this show has got me thinking. There are only 3 reasons you should ever be on hiatus. Number 1, Elizabeth finally waxed couch after 7 straight nights of watching Mexican soccer in bed. 2,
I wouldn't bring my Mexican soccer to the bedroom.
2, the Rube gets kidnapped by Hans Jurgen and Chad Latz.
Could see it.
3, Graham and Jason join a Jim Jones-esque doomsday cult in the Kenyan jungle wearing matching Nikes and purple robes, where it's revealed that Hondo is the cult leader. Hondo tells them that he has had a hot tip, that the end is nigh, and that the only path to eternal happiness is to drink the special purple drink of enlightenment. Graham and Jason are never heard from again.
Those are 3 pretty good reasons. So,
Shit, I'm getting kidnapped. I'm getting my drink spiked by Hondo.
Yeah. It's not great. Yeah. And I would trust me, I would not put Elizabeth through that. We do not have a TV in the bedroom.
Whacking you. Hans Jurgen. Number 1, time for new blood on the U.S. women's national soccer team and on Couch in the Rube. 2, I kid, Couch in the Rube, because I love. Graham has changed the way we think about donuts.
Appreciate you.
I just eat them so fast. 3, Big Ten should go to 20 and have a classic Big Ten division and a new Big Ten division. The classic Big Ten division should consist of the pre-Big Ten expansion members, and the new division should consist of the expansion members. I don't care if we ever play Rutgers or Maryland again. The expansion members don't really belong.
I actually don't hate this. They would never do it because they just would never do it. But it would be because in terms of balance, you'd have USC, Penn State in one, USC or UCLA, Oregon, Washington. One's a good division. Then you got Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Iowa. I don't. They're never going to do this because it geographically makes 0 sense, and nobody wants that, and they want to have USC playing Ohio State and Michigan. But I actually don't hate that idea.
Jake Hawkins next. Number 1, the fact that Oregon and Washington are willing to take less money to join the Big Ten makes the recent expansion move such bullshit. This is just a market grab. I'm really worried about the future of college football. It might become watered down. 2, you may be right, Graham, that soccer may be the future sport of the world.
The future. It's the most popular in the world.
And this is a hot take.
Okay.
Even the U.S., the fact that Saudi-owned team Al Hilal offered French player Kylian Mbappe $700+ million for just 1 year is a combination of ridiculous and outstanding. 3, I'm buying into the Lions hype. Believe a huge step will be made this year, possibly a division title and a first ever hosting a playoff game at Ford Field. But you can't be serious to let an actual live lion roam the sidelines on a game day, even with the world's best trainer.
I love you, Jake. These are great.
Dude, Campbell wants to bring a lion, like a live lion down.
Core foundation and grit.
I can just see that going so poorly.
Put it in a cage. Have Mike Tyson walk it in.
Well,
Why not?
The problem is you either get something that goes horribly wrong or you got a situation that looks like animal abuse. It's not either way.
It's going to go both ways.
Yeah, it's not going to be. It's not going to be.
The lion
good.
has gotten loose in Ford Field. Finally, the jerk guy. Number 1, Big Ten should go to 32 teams and then pull in non-Power 5 teams as lower level that can get promoted as main teams get relegated.
Love it.
2, the Lions are giving hope again and abused fans will come running back. 3, we need a Rube after the podcast where Jason can talk trash about Graham.
Like an after hours, just
what that I don't do on here.
Yeah, you hear everything. Like
it would just be me just doing an impression of you,
which you do quite often.
Donuts. I don't know what hot dog this is. I just inhaled it.
You've nailed it. Like I don't know what else there is to say. I mean that's the essence, the essence of me. We appreciate all of you for producing our show, all of your hot takes. Thanks to Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing. Great place to spend any night of your week, any brunch, any lunch, and trivia on Tuesdays. And thanks to our friends at Muskox. Go to gomuskox.com. Again, the promo code CAW15 for $15 off your flannel purchase. We will be back in the middle of the week. Hopefully something will have happened by then. Not that anything doesn't happen these days.